my fellow Americans. If you think you know politics, think again. I'm Michael Cohen, and every week on When You Know, we're pulling back the curtain on power, politics, media, and the people making headlines. On my new WABC radio show, you'll hear conversations from names that you know. People like Jerry Falwell Jr., Anthony Scaramucci, Alan Dershowitz, and many, many more. Maybe, just maybe, we'll even hear from the president. No scripts, no spin, just real conversations with people who were in the room where it happened. And trust me, we've got some very big surprises coming. Look, I've spent years at the center of politics, controversy, and power. I know the players, I know the stories, and now I'm bringing you inside. When You Know, Sundays at 5 p.m. on WABC Radio, and When You Know Unleashed, wherever you get your podcasts. Because with me, you never know who's going to show up.
Welcome to a new era of baseball's great spectacle, the T-Mobile Home Run Derby, live on Netflix. The biggest sluggers in baseball put their talents to the test on All-Star Weekend. Raw power meets star power. Big swagger meets bigger slams. And you don't swing to make contact. You swing to make history. Watch the T-Mobile Home Run Derby live on Netflix this Monday, July 13th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific.
The Other Side of Midnight with Lionel.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
I don't know when you're listening to this, but 3 hours from now, provided you hear the entire show. One can never say 2 hours, 3 hours, the time, because well, it might be different where you are. Our number is 800-848-9222. This is for you to call and to talk about preferably something that nobody's talking about, which is always a breath of fresh air, always fun to have somebody who calls up about something that's completely off the wall, which I love. Because let me tell you something, you are my guest. You are the guest of honor. You are. I know it sounds corny. I know. It sounds like, oh, God, what is this guy kidding? No, I'm serious. Because what people don't understand, and what I've always believed when it comes to the notion of talk radio, which is kind of sort of what this is, what really makes it is the caller. And callers, sometimes who were spot on, but every now and then somebody will call with something that is so out there that I just relish it. In any event, I thought of you today, my friends. We happened to be, my wife and I were out tooling about when we happened upon what appeared to be a cemetery in the New Jersey area where we were perambulating and locomoting and peregrinating about. And it reminded me of what we talked about last night. And I had talked about something which I find fascinating, a little background. You know, let me go back even further. One of the best things and worst things that ever happened to our beloved talk radio is Art Bell. Art Bell was just, everybody loves Art Bell. Oh, Art Bell was terrific. Art Bell was great. Art Bell ruined this because everybody figures, oh, at night you can talk about Art Bell stuff. It's like, no, you can talk about Art Bell stuff during the day too. This just happens to be when Art Bell was on. Oh, no. This kind of talk is weird. No. No, it's not weird. Pardon me. It is not weird. It is fascinating. And it is what people find most fascinating themselves. Oh, no. And we go through this. And there's always this idea that somehow this is kooky, weird, strange. It's not. I'm going to say something. And for the most part, it's not going to be welcomed. But then again, I don't really care. If you want to see something kooky, strange, and completely and totally factually and experientially irrelevant, listen to most political talk. I promise you, I can show you with facts and figures how a lot of people don't know what they're talking about. But they speak in terms of a kind of, and this is on all sides of the political, they speak in terms of a kind of a collective idea. depending upon what the particular format of the station is. If this is a left wing or right wing or whatever they perceive it to be, they will normally take every bumper sticker, playbook, cookie cutter, echo chamber phrase and just bludgeon you and truncheon you with, no, that's not it either. This is the most fascinating. Human beings are the most fascinating when led and left to our own devices. This is the most important. Now, there's something which is also interesting. This word called belief and believe. And I'm always finding myself in the position of reminding people of this. So many times people say, do you believe? You know, there was a case this week which has absolutely been one of the most fascinating cases ever. And it was the Tyler Robinson preliminary hearing. And we're not going to be talking about that because, believe me, it is so bad. The commentary is horrific because oftentimes the point is missed completely. But people will say, well, what do you believe happened? What do you believe? Do you believe in God? Do you believe in this? Do you believe that we landed on the moon? Do you believe? And the belief is a wonderful idea. It sounds great, this notion of belief. What does this even mean? And the belief is to know something, to understand. The idea of belief versus wish versus hope versus think versus imagine. We use these terms interchangeably. And I am rather, dare I say, priggish and punctilious as to what we say. You know, when you know something, this is a claim justified with certainty based on sufficiently established facts. I know, for example, I know this. To know something. I know it's 2:15, or I know it. To believe is to accept a proposition as true, though not necessarily with proof. This is to believe something. To think means you've reached kind of a tentative conclusion based on reasoning and evidence. And then to hope is you want a particular outcome while recognizing uncertainty. To wish, you want something to be true, often regardless of evidence, and to imagine is something else. So we have all of these realms we have imagine and wish and hope and think and believe and know. And when it comes to things beyond that, we always ask people, what do you think? What do you believe? And we go back to the notion of belief. We start with that. But I want to remind you, and remember, if things were absolutely true, you wouldn't need faith. If you believe something, if you have a particular whatever it is, and again, this is not a statement about religion or anything like that. But a lot of times the belief is, well, it might be mythical, it might be cultural, it might be a lot of things. Now, despite that long and drawn out version of this, there are items that fascinate me. And there is no universally accepted count of items, of things that people believe about reported phenomena, because some of them overlap and are interpreted differently across cultures. But if any group of them commonly described, I guess in terms of categories, there are roughly 40 to 60 distinct paranormal or psychic experiences that people claim to encounter. And the top 50, and in no particular order, not in terms of what is believable or popular, but I'm just going to go through this to give you an idea of what humans on their own will believe. And again, this goes to show you what I love. I love beyond anything because it's what you believe. A near-death experience. Out-of-body experiences. We had someone yesterday who talked about that, which is fascinating. Apparitions or ghosts, a poltergeist activity, haunted locations, crisis apparitions, deathbed visions, shared death experiences, terminal lucidity. That's something really interesting that a lot of neurologists and nurses will sometimes find. Reincarnation memories, past life regression, spirit communication, mediumship, channeling, automatic writing. Remember Ouija board? It's not the same, but something that's sort of, communications that come perhaps from elsewhere. Electronic voice phenomena, instrumental trans communication, clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, claircognizance, precognition, premonitions, retrocognition, telepathy, empathy, which is acclaimed, like, for example, as psychic empathy, to be empathic, psychometry, remote viewing, astral projection, bilocation, telekinesis or psychokinesis, dowsing, pendulum divination, scrying. This is mirrors, crystal balls, water. Divination by tarot, numerology, astrology, palmistry, aura perception, energy healing, spirit guides, guardian angels, and not the New York version, shadow people, sleep paralysis with perceived entities, doppelgangers, synchronicities, meaningful dreams or visitation dreams, UFO, UAP related anomalous encounters, time slips, and finally, number 50, miraculous or just unexplained healings. This is so interesting from a scientific perspective, well documented as reported experiences, near-death experiences, sleep analysis, bereavement visions, deja vu, and other subjective phenomena are real in the sense that people genuinely report experiencing them. And then items that are not established by mainstream scientific evidence, claims such as ghosts, psychic powers, telepathy, clairvoyance, mediumship, and communication with the dead remain unproven, but yet believed like you cannot believe. Now, here is my position. Very, very simple. And I think it makes complete and total sense. When people say something, when people believe something, when people say, I've seen this, I believe this, I know this, last time we had somebody who he was visited. He was in the hospital by these people who had just died, unbeknownst to him, in a car wreck or some type of disaster. And he saw the woman, this husband and wife team, he saw the woman before him. And he recognized, he said, she was wearing a particular dress. Well, it turns out that's what she was buried in. And there are people who saw ghosts and apparitions. Yesterday, we were, again, perambulating about. And in New York, especially Manhattan, you see a lot of storefront, tarot cards and psychics and people that you can come in. And here's my position. This is my very, very simple position. There is something to this because people are not easily fooled. Some people are gullible. Some people are rather prone to this. Just like some people are prone to believing in UAPs and UFOs. Not that that's, because I believe there's definitely something there. But one of the things which is so interesting is that we don't ever talk about them because we are told and we are asked to dismiss these people as being crazy. We're told to dismiss these people. They're nuts. They're lunatics. And again, we love to call people conspiracy theorists or tinfoil hat lunatics. And I respectfully submit to you, my dear friends, they are anything but crazy. Absolutely, positively true. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you this number, 800-848-9222. And I want to share with you, not with a guest, not with a quote expert, but with you, your belief, your experiences, your awareness, your sentience, what you've seen, heard, tasted, smelled, what your culture believes in. We talked a little bit last night about or morning, I guess, Santeria and voodoo and various spiritualities. All on Another Side of Midnight with Lionel.
Get ready, Staten Island.
The Ferry Hawks are back at SIUH Community Park July 7th to the 12th for a 6-game series against the High Point Rockers. Tonight, first pitch is at 6:30. It's Thirsty Thursday with $5 Bud and Bud Light Drafts. Friday, July 10th, first pitch is at 7 p.m. May the Force be with you on Star Wars Night with post-game kids glow around the bases with special lightsaber training packs.
Visit ferryhawks.com now to lock in your seats.
And we're live from the living room as Doug eyes up the match day spread. He's reaching for the Buffalo wing. Perfect! Hang on, what's this? Oh, he's gone for a can of Pepsi too! Incredible! What a finish! Sensational combination! Look at the delight on his face. There's no doubt about it. It just tastes better. Match days deserve Pepsi. Food deserves Pepsi. Grab a pack of Pepsi Zero Sugar for today's match. It's poetry in motion.
If you're a QuickBooks customer looking to grow without the growing pains, you need the Intuit ERP, the AI native ERP that upgrades right from QuickBooks. Learn more at intuit.com/ERP.
Need a laptop that's built to perform and designed to last all day? Select Windows 11 PCs starting at $499.99 are now at Best Buy. Learn more at bestbuy.com. Best Buy. Imagine that.
The Other Side of Midnight with Lionel.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have been able to believe in nothing, but to be fascinated by everything. To believe is something that I use very, very sparingly. Very, very sparingly. And I need some degree of proof, though there's a thing which you have to balance. For example, I don't necessarily have to see something to believe it. I've never been to Scranton, Pennsylvania, but I believe it's there because people have said so. I never met Abraham Lincoln, but I believe there was. I think there's enough circumstantial evidence of such. I don't know. When people go into a church and they feel something, I believe something is happening. I don't know. I don't have to ask myself whether it's real, is it psychological, but I'm fascinated nonetheless by what people believe in. And there's something about it which is so interesting. Now, I've always asked people this question. This has been one of my favorite. Whenever somebody says, what is your astrological sign? I always say feces. And of course, nobody listens to me and they go, oh, that's interesting. And they just move on because they don't care anything about me. They care about talking about themselves. Oh, you're Sagittarius. Oh, you're a Gemini. And whatever you are, you go, oh, you're a Libra, balanced. What does that even mean? And I've always said, what is the reason for, and this is important, what is the reason for somebody explaining, let's say we have two people. Let's say we have Isaac. By the way, this is Isaac's entree into radio. You'll learn. But let's say Isaac and, of course, Bill, who was stewarding the helm, they're born at the same time, on the same day, but different parts of the world. Let's say Isaac is born here and Bill is born in Beijing. And supposedly that means something. So you go to an astrologer and you say, when were you born? What's your sign? And blah, blah, blah. And then from that, they'll be able to tell when you are to be born or when you were born. And I said, what difference does it make where you're born? And I've asked this, even though I'm not incredulous, I'm just curious. And people say, well, it doesn't matter. I said, what difference does it matter? Imagine in your left hand hold a pea or some type of a grain of rice. And in your right hand, hold a baseball. Now, look at that pea. Look at that little tiny BB. What difference does it make on what side of the BB you exist when you're looking at this huge, monstrous system, this planet, this star? What difference does it make? If Bill is born in Beijing and Isaac is born in here, is one more prone to success than another? I don't know. And when I ask people this, they get frustrated. They think I'm cross-examining them. They think I'm being mean. No, I want to know this thing. I've also asked this question, and this really gets them. We had a friend of the family who was expecting a cesarean. And she said, well, we're going to go to the doctor today and to find when we're going to have the baby. I said, oh, how joyous. I said, now let me ask you a question. Let's assume, arguendo, that means for the sake of argument, as opposed to innuendo, which is an Italian suppository. But let's assume that you're going to be, this baby could be born on the 21st, the 22nd, or the 23rd. Let's assume, again, that in this case, is hypothetical. The doctor says, makes no difference to me. Pick the date you want. And you went to an astrologer and said, listen, when would be the best day? Would it be on the 21st? 22nd is kind of on the cusp. 23rd, you're definitely into the next realm. It's like Virgo and Leo. And okay, what would be the best time? So the person I talked to will obviously say, you can't, it doesn't work like that. What do you mean it doesn't work like that? It doesn't work like that. Why not? Well, it's not when you can't pick. Okay, so tell me, what would have been the real astrological sign of somebody who has, let's say, birth induced? Well, we don't know this. Well, for the rest of their life, this person is going to be handing their birth certificate. I was born at this time, this day, at this moment, whatever. So if it doesn't matter, then why do we tell people I was born on February the 22nd at 12:03 a.m.? If it doesn't matter, why are you telling people when you actually were born? Is it when you hit the air? Is it when you would have been born? Nobody can answer the question. They get upset. Why? Because I thought enough to even inquire. And it fascinates me. And how people believed. Ronald Reagan's wife, Nancy, years ago, believed in an astrologer. Patton, General George Patton, believed in an astrologer, different things. There are people, I don't have to give you the history of it, but there are folks who really, really believe in it. Tarot cards and spirits. And I want to know very simply this. When did you believe in what you believe? It is very, very simple. When did you believe in what you believe? Let's go to the phones right now. Let's start off with Alexi in Queens. Alexi, you're on Another Side of Midnight with Lionel.
Yes, good evening, sir.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me clearly?
Do I fear you? No, I don't fear you, but I can hear you just fine. Yes,
good,
sir.
Good.
That's an old joke.
As per your previous statement about people who claim they see the dead, walking,
Yes,
the ghosts and the phantasms, the intriguing thing is that all our experiences in life, from the day we are born to the day we go, they are conscious states, there are unconscious states, and there is sleep time. The thing is that during interesting phenomenon, during sleep time, the brain produces often exotic chemicals which have the effect of creating images on the reverse side of the eye, as well as affecting the auditory nervous system. So what happens is in our dreams, we see things that are so blessedly realistic, it's frightening, or we hear people talking, or we hear a conversation, or we talk with someone. So the point is, this is taking place during the sleep time. Now, the same chemicals, I have theory that the same chemicals are liberated during the conscious time, not the sleep time, the conscious time. Now, you say, well, how is it possible? Well, if you understand Freud or Jung, you will appreciate the fact that the conscious time and the subconscious time are both parallel, and one does not shut off and one does not continue this way or that. So while we appear to be conscious and in control and such, the unconscious, the subconscious is working, processing hundreds of thousands of things more than what the conscious mind is. As we walk in the street, it will absorb certain observations and things which we have no awareness of. That is the subconscious's job. So what happens is that some people have could not call it a defect, but the same chemistry that creates the dreams and the dream phenomenon in the sleep time, the unconscious sleep time, are doing it during our conscious period while we are awake and alert and during the daytime.
Let me ask you a question. This sounds fascinating, certainly plausible, without any stretch of the imagination. How did you come upon this? Did you read this? Do you believe this? Do you reckon this? Where did you come up with this, good sir?
I studied many things, Mesmer, Charcot, Freud,
very good.
Jung, a whole bunch of these people. And what impressed me most is the fact that it comes to my mind that during our conscious day-to-day period, while we are alert and awake, usually during the day, we are dreaming. And so people say, oh, I see an alien descending from a spacecraft. Or I see Mr. Jones who died last year and he is talking to me. But it is such realism to overwhelm the senses. And these people, they swear it is true and it happened. It is the same effect in a dream. But
so are you saying that it is not real? What are you saying?
No.
It's imaginary?
No. It is in the realm of the human brain to create states. It is I spoke to a Dr. Alcott. He's a specialist in psychiatry, and he told me he has had reports from patients and other practitioners of having dreams while they were sleeping that were so incredibly realistic. They could
let me ask you this question, not to interrupt you, sir, which is fascinating. Here's my question. How do you know what is real? And can we ever say there's something, it sounds like I'm saying Israel. Is there something that there is real? Does reality ever exist, sir?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. There is no question. It is not dependent on your state of mind to say, oh, well, I don't happen to believe. Yeah.
If I think I see something that I believe is called a UAP, a UFO, is it ever possible that they exist? If I see one land, if I see something get out of the craft, how do I tell the difference when it is actually real or perhaps something that is an apparition or something that is being created neurologically? Because as you know, when you are hearing, seeing, smelling, there's nothing really there unless and until your brain processes that. If your brain works correctly, the two will normally meet. If you pick up a coffee mug, you'll see the coffee mug, you'll feel it, the weight. But as is the case sometimes, you can hallucinate. Whereas for whatever reason, your brain, instead of giving you the correct signal, gives you an incorrect. And then, by the way, hallucination to be differentiated from an illusion, where something that is there is misperceived. So my question to you, sir, is how can you tell when something is really real?
Well, you take the classic example of the mirage in the desert.
Yes.
An explorer is lost and he is dying of thirst and he sees what appears to be a rolling waves of an ocean in the distance. It is so vivid. I have an account of this statement from a archaeologist who was in Ethiopia who he said I could swear it was an ocean, maybe a mile in front of me. He ran like mad to it and it disappeared. But he said the intensity of the reality of the perception of this was so strong, it was absolutely credible.
Okay.
But it was not there.
The person, obviously, later on, you could say the reason for that was because of, let's say, heat or whatever the reason is. Maybe there's waves of how light is somehow diffract or whatever. Now, if somebody tells you, I have heard the voice of God, I saw my beloved relative who died speak to me, I am feeling a certain type of a connection to something. How can you tell what is real to what is not? What is the litmus test for reality?
Sir, I have to say this. The human race has been around maybe as conscious individual beings for about truly, maybe 10,000 years. We are an infant race. Our brains are still in the process of developing. Our physiologies are developing. And the problem is we are primitive. We are primitive. It is it is beyond difficulty to even imagine that we are civilized. It is a complete, the only reason we believe we are civilized because we are part of this grand miasma of society.
Yes. So my question to you, good sir, is simply this. Again, how do I tell what is real, what is imagined, and what is something else? What is the test?
What are the tests? There are many tests, but I think the most practical test is something that is real would have to cause a change in something beyond your control, as opposed to a dream state where you could say, oh, I had a dream that I set a house on fire, but the house did not burn. It stood in the flames, it did not burn. But
if I were to observe something, okay, let me ask you something, not to interrupt, but if I were just to observe something, you and I are at a baseball stadium, and I'm saying, look, I see the pitcher. And then over here, I said, and you say, yes, there he is. And I guess maybe if two people see the same thing, that might be a good test. But let's say that you see a pitcher, and I say, yes, but Alexei, not only do I see that, but do you see that Neanderthal on top of the Triceratops? And you say, no, I don't see that. You would say, I'm hallucinating because you can't see it. I would say, you just can't see it. Just like there are people who are blind, people who are colorblind, people who are deaf. So what I'm saying is not to get too into the weeds, but if I see something and I believe it is there, and you reject it because maybe the subject matter is ridiculous, a dinosaur, to me, in my humble opinion, reality is whatever you believe reality is. And you could say whatever you want. And sometimes society might say, well, that's interesting. If it doesn't get in the way, if you show up to work, if you pay your taxes, we will let you think and see anything you want. If you stand in the corner and you look a bit disheveled, if you're talking to yourself, then we'll call you crazy. It's not what you believe, but it's how you manifest it. That's all. And I think sometimes we're very judgmental. Final thought, good sir.
I would say that my theory is quite correct based on all the research that I've done, the dozens of people I've spoken to, people in general. The thing is, what shocks me is that the average human being, it does not matter where they are born or live in this planet, they all have something in common. This phenomenon is universal. It is not restricted to Americans or Chinese or Russians.
Absolutely. It's all because we are human. I thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Please call me again. Most fascinating. 800-848-9222. Thank you. Let's go back at the phones. Back at the phone. Let's go to Benjamin. No, excuse me. Somebody's been on for a while. Max in Manhattan. Max, you're on another side of midnight with Lionel.
Lionel, thank you for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
I remember last week there was a gentleman who called in explaining his teleportation trip to Mars and
Indeed.
the difficulty he had in coming back. So if this can be some sort of phone call to ask him to call back, I think that would be good.
Why is that, sir?
Well, so he can finish his story concerning his teleportation to Mars.
What if I don't want to hear it?
Well, that might be a possibility. You might not want to hear it, but I think you might.
But do you believe him?
I was inclined to believe it. Yes.
You believe that somebody he was teleported to Mars.
Well, I don't know if he was teleported or he, through some sort of meditative teleportation, he arrived
You
at
just
Mars.
said, so you're just adding meditative. You said, I don't know whether he was teleported or whether it was teleportive meditation. Do you believe he was physically
to be
there?
A bit more specific.
Do you believe he was there in an atmosphere that, whereas we cannot necessarily, we would not do very well without some type of breathing apparatus? Was he there spiritually, physically, theoretically? Do you believe he was physically on Mars, walking about where he can feel terra firma, if you will? Or is this just kind of an expression?
Perhaps he was there in the way that they like that George Clooney movie, Men Who Kill Goats, I think it is. Right. See, those who've seen, yes. Now,
let me ask you something. Have you yourself been in the position where you have visited or you have seen something that you find to be unique and shocking and just
real,
interesting,
even though it's
surreal, paranormal? Has that ever happened to you?
Yeah, I would say so.
What happened to you?
I was flying through the air, but I was jumping and I was pushing out of one jump, I could be flying 10 blocks.
What was the topic, the context of your thought? Was this during your sleep? Were you driving? Were you awake? When did you experience this?
I was asleep. And
you were asleep?
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to be a poo-pooer, but you were dreaming.
You are.
No, but I'm saying, what if somebody says, you were dreaming?
Well, you could say that I was dreaming, but the type of, if you'll allow me to use the word texture of the dream, was a bit different from previous dreams. And to this day, I have not been able to repeat it. So I'm inclined to believe that it was something beyond the norm. And on some level, maybe I was flying.
And do you think that, there are people who have used or wanted to use, and I think people should be very, very careful about this, but the use of psychedelics have been really, really making their they've always been popular to an extent, but there's something really fascinating regarding, and people have been able to unleash, to unconnect. And I think there is definitely something to that. And
yes, I'm glad you brought that up. I'm glad.
Yes.
I'm glad you brought that up because there's I'm worried if I'm opening a can of worms here. If you remember the writer Carlos Castaneda,
Sure.
And I'm still not sure if the spelling is Castaneda, and everyone says
Right.
Castaneda. So I'm a bit
Doesn't matter.
worried
Forget the
about pronunciation
Go
of that.
ahead.
But he goes through 7 volumes or maybe more of how these hallucinogens, these peyote and the mushrooms, should be used,
Right.
and how to overcome certain problems in one's life by the use of these drugs. And I found it very interesting because maybe I should use a different word than interesting. If I can think of one, I will use it. But it was a way of going past the norm and improving yourself as a person. It wasn't just about going there and going to a rock concert and getting stoned. An aspect.
I believe this. No. Let me tell you something. It's not that I believe this. I know this for a fact. Do you know that years ago when ecstasy, Molly, and all this other was talked about, people immediately poo-pooed it. There's that word again. A lot of poo-pooing here. But the people were saying, oh, that's ridiculous. That's a dangerous drug. And by the way, you got to be very, very careful, especially if you were to use something that was handed to you by somebody with a beret named Ace, or somebody, one of the most interesting people, if you've ever studied the Drosh. The Drosh are people, kind of a subterranean, kind of a hybrids, these hominids, who many people believe still walk around. They're the Drosh tribe.
Drosh?
Droesch. But in any event, and you'll know them. Believe it or not, I've met a lot of people in the entertainment and radio business that they fancy themselves as being cognizant. But in any event, when MDMA, which is of course the either the name, so to speak, of ecstasy, there was this. I'll never forget reading this study. There was this this instance, I should say, married couple, having a lot of problems for whatever it's worth. They sent their kids to their in-laws. They locked the doors. Maybe there was medical supervision, I don't know, but they took a dose of MDMA, and they were able to hit depths of understanding. It was so somebody, I hate to use these analogies, unclogged a pipe or a toilet but this new channel. Right. They saw things, they heard things. Sometimes, when you have a clogged nose, I can breathe again. Well, now they can think again. And I absolutely know for a fact, sometimes you might have false senses of introspection, but there's something to be said for that. It's done wonders for people with PTSD, children who have been traumatized, people, or just people who just want an insight into our existence, our being. And I firmly believe that it would benefit us tremendously. The problem is that whenever you do this, somebody thinks of a sitar playing in the background, Timothy Leary, and of course here comes that word, poo-poo it, because they don't understand it. Do you think that right now you're talking to me, this is the highest form, the highest level of intellectual sentience and psychic availability? Is this is it? You mean to tell me you can't hear better, think better, smell better, taste better, experience better? Do you think that people who have been meditating and people who have been into spiritual realms, they're just making this up? I absolutely, I wouldn't know how to go about it. And I want people to be very, very careful when it comes to not psychogenic, but hallucinogenic drugs, because some people look at Sid Barrett. It's not a good example, but I firmly believe this. And I think that religions, and I think that faiths, and I think that a lot of people would benefit if we were to investigate this greatly. Absolutely, positively, 100% guaranteed.
Sure. I mean, look at the dervishes, right? The whirling dervishes.
Oh, yes. I've known a few of those in radio.
Some sort of, you've known them in the radio field.
Oh, let me tell you something. I got to tell you something, and I thank you very much for your call. sir, please call me again. Let me tell you something. I have been around in my life. I have known some of the most deranged people ever. I have known people who have been from a world you can't imagine. I have seen people in the criminal justice realm. I've seen people who have really, really, really been scary and frightening. But the most dangerous are people who work in the radio business, specifically overnights, with all due respect. These are the people who are not allowed out during the day. These are people who have a unique talent. And normally, what motivates them to work these positions is severe and irreparable desperation. And with all due respect to Bill and Isaac, I love you to death, but let's face it, you're here for a reason, and it's not good. Our number is 800, I kid, of course, 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. This is Another Side of Midnight with Lionel.
The Other Side of Midnight with Lionel.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
By the way, this breaking news, Senator Lindsey Graham has apparently died of a mysterious illness at the age of 71. This is most, whenever I see this, I think to myself, I have to check a bunch of different times just to double check because of the confusion. But Lindsey Graham, elected to the Senate in 2003, a close political ally of President Donald Trump, has died, according to his office, who confirmed early Sunday, which is now. He was 71. He died Saturday night from a brief and sudden illness. His family appreciates prayers and the like. And of course, he was, we're not going to go into his political history. We'll let others do this as well. But brief and sudden illness. It's very interesting. Graham was chairman, of course, of the Senate Budget Committee and was seeking a fifth term in November. Emergency personnel responded to calls for a cardiac arrest at his Capitol Hill home on Saturday night, according to police scanner audio obtained by NBC News. Photographs reviewed by NBC News show paramedics carried a person on a stretcher from Graham's home to an awaiting ambulance. Police cars and trucks were also on site. He was fresh from a trip to Kyiv in Ukraine, where he met with Zelensky on Friday. He had been scheduled to appear on Meet the Press on Sunday. His death comes as fellow Republican Mitch McConnell remains in the hospital, a very interesting state, if you will, as paramedics responded as well. So isn't this interesting? Now, as you know, people will immediately suspect, wait a minute, maybe there's something to this. Maybe there's something that is very, very, maybe there's something interesting about this. What is this? And I think this is also one of this is one of the great areas of my fascination. It's the idea of when we don't believe something to be true. With the death of Senator Lindsey Graham and his views on various geopolitical issues and war and the like, people are going to be, and his recent visit to Kyiv, watch what happens as the theories, hypotheses, and suspicions just run amok as to forces and evil and poisonings, and watch. And some people may say, well, that's of course the dread conspiracy theory mentality. What I suspect, it goes to show you something called spiritual and imagination fecundity, to be fecund, to be fertile, to use your imagination, because we have seen this before. And in our world, and in this world that we live in today, when you don't have that, when you don't appreciate those suspicions, you're not as intellectually and spiritually and politically well off as those people who understand just how complex the world is. Is this not fascinating? My friends, our number is 800-848-9222. 800-848-9222. We will continue. Any news I'm able to glean, or pull together regarding the sudden death of Senator Lindsey Graham, I will let you know. As we delve into, plumb the depths of what we call Another Side of Midnight. And notice how I change the way I deliver this in a kind of a quasi-spooky delivery, which of course always accompanies any radio transmission and broadcast at this time of the day or night. It's automatic. 800-848-9222. Another Side of Midnight continues with me, Lionel. I want to hear from you.
The Other Side of Midnight with Lionel.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
800-848-9222. This is Another Side of Midnight. Breaking news, which is truly breaking news. If you ever watch anything on line, everything is breaking, everything is blockbuster. But Senator Lindsey Graham is dead at the age of 71. His office lists the cause of death as from a, quote, brief and sudden illness. He last night had some type of an incident on Saturday night. Emergency personnel responded to a call for a, quote, cardiac arrest at Mr. Graham's Capitol Hill home. And he was rushed, apparently, off via ambulances and the like. And apparently he passed sometime thereafter, which is very interesting. This is now we're going to get into something which is very interesting. And this is something which is a part and parcel of the social media world that we live in. Let me tell you how this works. First, and this is critical, whenever people die, especially online, not that they die online, but the online, the paeans, the eulogia, the references to them, there always is this thing called auto mourn. This is a theory of mine in which people will believe that, especially in the cases of celebrities, entertainment, that this was the most important person in their life, that the feeling of loss that they feel is greater than anything else. I have a friend of mine who is in the entertainment business who has a picture that he has taken with literally everyone who has ever lived. And as soon as somebody dies, I'm looking right now at his Instagram account because there will be a picture of this individual standing next to somebody who is now dead. And he will in essence show you, I am someone. I am somebody, to use a great Jesse Jackson line, because I once stood next to this famous person who's now dead. It's their link because, as you know, social media is a way in which we human beings seek some form of validation, something somewhere to make us feel like we're important. We're important. By God, don't you understand? I stood next to Lindsey Graham. I'm somebody. I don't mean to in any way to minimize his death. I'm not saying that. But it's funny how we respond to it. We talked about this last night as well. Let's go back to the phones, back to what I call interesting. Let's go to a fellow named Benjamin. Benjamin in Queens. Benjamin, you're on Another Side of Midnight with Lionel.
Good morning, Lionel.
Good morning, Benjamin.
I believe that the mind is above the five senses. And I believe that when things happen, like a near-death experience, and people, even a blind person who's dead, who then comes back, tells what's going on in the operating room. And if science is about observation is based on the five senses. So what's the explanation? Is it the mind? Is it's five senses? Their eyes were covered. What is it? Is it maybe it's the soul?
What do you think?
I think it's the soul, but that's not a.
What is the
answer.
soul? I'm not trying to be dense. What is the soul? We use words. You've got to have heart, it's soul, heart and soul, body and soul, soul. He lost the soul. There's this wonderful idea that when you die, we lose exactly 13 ounces or something. There's some idea that that's the soul. What does the soul mean to you, sir?
It means that intellect and morality. But it doesn't answer the question about what I just said.
Okay. That would only make sense. But going a little deeper, though, just don't worry about fact or anything like that. Tell me, what is it that you think this is all about?
Well, I believe that the higher-ups don't want us to know about the power of the mind. And
who are the higher-ups?
Well,
who are the higher-ups? I like this.
I'll tell you.
Who are they?
I'll tell you, because in the 1920s, Einstein was at a scientific conference, and the physicists told him that when we observe the atom, it changes. And Einstein said, no, that's not possible. Then Einstein saw it.
This is the Heisenberg. Heisenberg, by the way, verified this.
Right. And so the uncertainty principle. Anyway, right. So the Princeton and all those top Ivy League schools said, we better keep this quiet. We don't want the public to understand that there's anything else but five senses and logic. We can't have them believe anything else.
The people at Princeton suggested that they should keep this quiet because we don't want people to know that certainty as we know it is not as, dare I say, certain as we think. Is that what you're intimating and suggesting, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Now,
I've heard
but now that we all know it and we've heard of it, how has society changed because of it? Anything at all?
Well, in order to maintain mental health, thank God the people on this call you on your show are not in the psychiatric office. However, in order to maintain mental health, they have to have some kind of linear thinking. But for people who are more advanced and can be stable at the same time, it's something we don't quite understand, but we understand that there's some reality that I call it a soul.
How much of this has to do with religion, and what is religion? I don't want to get into. Of course, we know what it is, but is a person who is a absolute blanket, abject atheist? Does that person have the same ability to appreciate and to experientially enjoy life as somebody who is of faith?
I'm not sure about that, but I know that in some mental health professionals, if you mention the word joy is more of a, they think it's like, they laugh at the concept of joyfulness.
I've never heard that before.
They understand happiness, but they don't understand joyfulness.
What's the difference?
I have to look.
No, but what do you think it is? No, but wait. You don't worry. No, you're bringing this up for a good reason. I like the idea because I love when we parse any kind of word or experience or any concept. What do you think the difference is? Irrespective of what the dictionaries say, what do you think it is?
I believe a dog can be happy, but I don't think a dog can be joyful. I believe it's a sense that human beings can experience, which is something that gives them inner peace and joy, because all a dog cares about is eating and drinking and shelter, and not much else.
How do you know that?
Well, I really don't, but that's what I was taught in my religion.
Well, no, but I see. This is something that's very interesting. There was a while back when there was the word, as you know, there's anthropomorphism. And anthropomorphism is when we tend to attribute certain things like, oh, look, my dog, he loves me. He doesn't love you. No, look, he's wagging his tail. Look, he's happy. Happy. And those are terms that we use. And it was very interesting. One time they did a test, kind of like this neuroimaging, and they had a dog that they had trained to be able to sit still for long periods of time while they did some kind of an fMRI type of imaging. And they took the smell of the owner and they blew it into a little tube into the nose or about the dog, and the dog could smell his owner. The part of the brain that lit up, that responded, was that which is normally seen when there's food or not happiness, but kind of like gratification. Again, we're using human terms. So the question is, does the dog really love you, or does the dog just look at you like you're the person that feeds them? And we don't know. As you know, human beings love to make things everything. They make everything mystical, and they love to make everything deep, and we attribute all kinds of things and words like spirit and soul. And I think that's our tendency, because we tend to kind of wax poetic, and we don't know. But the critical part, and what you're doing, which is very important, you're dissecting something that most people would not even think about. I think that is the sign of a higher mind.
Well,
what do you think about that?
No,
I'm not trying to be.
No, I understand what you're saying. I appreciate that, but it's something, I don't know what to say. I think it's true, but it's something that if we can't explain it, we don't have to explain everything. We can say maybe we don't know it. We don't know, but but atheists have to have proof, and I don't have to have proof because I have
No. You see, sometimes an atheist, a person, this is without theism, and a Buddhist, theoretically, is an atheist. And a person can say, I don't need proof. I don't believe it, or I don't understand it, or I don't think there's any proof. Just like a person who doesn't understand or speak French. It's not that they don't think French exists. They just don't think that. So there's this tendency, we love to think in a pejorative way. I am what people would consider to be irreligious. And I never think about it. It never enters my mind. I never think about it, just like I don't think about German. I just don't. I know people speak it. They're fine people. They're great people, wonderful people. It just doesn't cross my mind. Religion to me is something, and God and spirit never was anything that captivated me, inspired me. I didn't reject it. It just didn't grab me. I don't speak God, but I know people believe in it. And I also reject the idea that people say, well, if you don't believe in a God, then how can you enjoy morality? To which I say, are Buddhists not moral? What does that mean? So this is what makes us human. We think above what's in front of us. We think about the hereafter. We think about epistemological. We think about the idea of thinking. We love morality, the hereafter. We question reality. I think it's one of the most important things in the world. And yet, as you know, people will discard what you're doing. They'll say, stop that. Stop wasting our time with that nonsense. It's not nonsense at all. It's true. Final thought, good sir.
Oh, yes. I know a rabbi who had a near-death experience, and he said, can you explain to a blind person what the color red is or blue is? He said, no, he doesn't know what it is. He said, when you die, all your good deeds are rewarded, but I can't explain to you how because we're now blind.
And far be it for me to even question that, because I don't know. See, I would like to think that's true. And what I do is, rather than, people feel this reflex where they have to always assess it. Well, that doesn't make any sense, or you're just thinking that, or I don't think that at all necessarily. What I believe, which is really critical, is that we need to continue with this thinking. And by the way, I thank you so very much. Please call me again. But continue thinking about it. Don't be afraid of it and absorb it. But just only one condition. When you meet someone who either does not agree with you, or somebody who disagrees with you, or somebody who can't understand you, have patience with them. That's all. Have patience. This is Lionel with you on Another Side of Midnight.
Adobe Firefly is the all-in-one creative studio with AI-powered image and video editing for today's creative process. Built for creators of every kind, Firefly helps you generate, edit, and experiment fast. Because the asks aren't getting smaller, the budgets aren't getting bigger, and the timelines, oh yeah, still tight. With all the best creative AI models in one place, Firefly brings your ideas to life. Unlock a better way to make with Adobe Firefly.
With the all-new Dynasty Blueprint in EA Sports College Football 27, you can build your program by earning Dynasty points to spend on NIL, staff, and more. But the fun doesn't end at graduation. With the EA Sports MVP Bundle, get College Football 27, Madden NFL 27, plus Deluxe Edition rewards in both games. Make your rise with the MVP Bundle, available now at EA.com. Rated E for everyone with mild lyrics, easy to interact, and in-game purchases. Includes random items. Conditions and restrictions apply. See the link for more info.
Want to elevate your travel experience? Here's how. With a Delta SkyMiles Reserve American Express card, you can relax before your flight in the Delta Sky Club with up to 15 visits per medallion year. And now through July 15th, 2026, you can earn up to 125,000 bonus miles, so you're closer to your next adventure. The Delta SkyMiles Reserve card. Check out the new design at www.delta.com/Spotify. Minimum spending requirements and terms apply.
I wrote a little song to remind you, Choice Hotels get you more of the experiences you value. The Cambria Hotel's got it all. A rooftop bar, have a ball. Cocktails up here feel just right. Is Cambria amazing? All right. Bring a date, your team, or even your mom. Book direct at choicehotels.com. See you on the roof.
The Other Side of Midnight with Lionel.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Alrighty, Lionel with you on number 800-848-9222. I have absolutely no suspicions or thoughts as to the hereafter or souls, or don't. But I'd love to hear yours. I've always wanted to be the person that accompanies let's say, somebody from another planet who visits us, and I want to be their guide. I want to say, let me show you what humans do. And the first thing I would do is I would say, these are churches. These are churches and synagogues and mosques. These are where people, humans, all pay reverence or tribute or something to what we call either God or higher up, whatever the particular phrase is. Many of us believe in something, and it's something that has been around forever. And again, I pass no judgment on this as being right or wrong, but it is something that is interesting. I would also explain to the person from another planet, another stratum, that people will never be able to see or understand why somebody else thinks differently. And the reason why you believe something, for the most part, is based upon what part of the earth you were born. If you're born in Damascus, chances are your chances of being a Baptist are pretty low. It has to do with culture and mythology, but all of them, everything that we do has to deal with something. And people call it the God gene. And what I believe is I have a construct. I have something which I sort of believe in. When I say believe, this is a working definition that I think kind of works. I imagine years ago there was a fellow walking around. I don't know what his name is. Let's say his name is Kevin. And Kevin is walking around. He's a Neanderthal or Homo erectus, or he might even have been an Australopithecine. I have no idea. And Kevin is walking around and he says, ain't this something? I don't understand what the hell's going on here. I've got wild animals. I've got lightning. I've got death. I've got birth. I don't understand. Do I live? Where do I go? I've got light. This lightning is scaring the hell out of me. There's rain. And he looks up and says, there's got to be something in charge, something perhaps from the sky, something that's making these noises. The thunder, the lightning, the fire. And from that initial period, on the 8th day, man created God. And when I say this is not out of something that's irreverent. I mean, he says that because he has to figure something out. We hate the locus of control aspect. Let me explain this one to you. One of my favorite classes, I was a psychology major in college. I don't know if that means anything. It doesn't, but because psychology is not what people think. It's not Freud. A lot of it is statistical things and math, and a lot of it's math, believe it or not. But one of the things I loved was we had this one class, perception and awareness, great class. And the professor asked a simple question. Why, when you are dizzy, let's say you're on a ride, let's say you're on the Cyclone at Coney Island, and maybe normally if you're going around versus in straight directions, but if you've ever been dizzy before, why do you throw up? Why do you vomit? Why do you exhibit emesis? Why do you become emetic? Why do you vomit? Why do you hurl? Why do you spew? You know the routine. Why not laugh or sneeze or, dare I say, break wind? One of my favorite expressions. Why don't you break wind? When you're on a ride or something and you get off and you're walking around and say, boy, that was something. And of course you expel your reaction to it. Why? Why vomit? And when you ask people the question, they normally get it wrong. They say, well, the reason why is because your body detects motion. And I say, no, I understand that. I understand how the semicircular canal works. I understand the cilia in the brain. And we get cilia and cilia as we do this. But yes, I understand that. That's not the answer. That's the mechanism that determines dizzy. Why is dizzy interpreted and manifested as vomiting? Why is it dyspepsia? Why? Out of all the reactions, why that? And the hypothesis, remember the difference between hypothesis and a theory. A theory is something that you can replicate, the theory of gravity, whatever. But I said the interesting thing about this was the reason for this is that when you're standing there, your body, by virtue of what your propriocentric feelings, movement, your feet says, we're sitting here. We're not going anywhere. But yeah, we feel like we're moving. Something's wrong. We're here. We know we're here. I can tell. But yet, I see things spinning. It's like we're moving. Your body, under this hypothesis, says, I must have ingested a neurotoxin. There must be a poison. So I have to get rid of it. Have you ever seen a dog sometimes? A dog will go outside and eat grass. It looks for a purgative. It knows something is up. It knows what to do. It knows I've got to do something to remove this. I'm not feeling good. I have to become emetic, to vomit. Something's wrong. And it's a fascinating idea. This is this idea when you're not able to when you're not able to identify what you're seeing with what you're feeling, and you get that conflict, your brain goes berserk, much like program directors do in talk radio venues. They don't know what they're doing because this is the only job they can find. Now, I kid, of course, but not really. There's these other aspects of it. The moon illusion. Have you ever seen this? I love this. If you are a photographer, if you are somebody who's trying to take the picture of that perfect, like, look how big the moon is. And you see this sometimes. Photographers will set their cameras up and they'll say, I want to get a picture of this huge moon, always at the horizon. And they learn about the moon illusion. What is that? What does that mean? And this is, of course, will be fascinating because remember, an illusion is something that is there that you see differently, but a hallucination is something that's not there. The moon illusion is the most famous effect in which the moon, and you've seen this, looks enormous near the horizon, but much smaller when it's in the sky at the apex, straight above. Even though its actual angular size is essentially the same, the radius is the same from the Earth, from the horizon to straight ahead. And the photographer surprises, the camera doesn't automatically photograph the huge moon that your brain thinks it sees. If you use the same lens and settings, the moon occupies roughly the same number of pixels near the horizon as it does overhead. Why? Why do you see it differently? Your brain uses buildings and trees and mountains and the apparent depth of the horizon as size and distance cues. And the horizon moon seems farther away. So your perceptual system interprets the same angular size as a much larger physical object. And to get those spectacular photographs of gigantic moon, behind a building, photographers usually use a long telephoto lens and shoot from a considerable distance. And that creates perspective compression. See, the moon illusion is psychological. The dramatic photograph is optical composition, lens choice. In short, your eyes see a huge moon, but the camera sees the geometry. Last night, my wife and I were coming back, and all of a sudden I looked and I noticed, I said, these people are in the middle of the street. They're right there and coming right out of the tunnel, Lincoln Tunnel. And these people are walking in the middle of the street with their cameras. Like, what the hell's the matter with these people? They don't even look. And it was Manhattan Henge, or whatever they thought it was. This is when they look, they go, oh my God, look, there's the moon, there's the sun. These people are going to get killed because they trust me. They think I'm a great driver. Well, I'm okay, but anyway. But look at what people did. They were all transfixed. I said, my God, this is Stonehenge. Look at this. Look what we're seeing here. These people were responding in a way that they've responded since the beginning of time. It's fascinating. Look, this is nothing special. And of course, a lot of it is because of it's social media based and people will, just like when twerking came about. But isn't it fascinating? What I'm trying to say to you is this. We are human. Accept this. And there's one thing I know. When you were unable to figure something out, you will make something up. You will make something up. Those of us in the biz, I was talking to my good friend, Mr. Bill Lee, and others. I said, have you ever met somebody who is a radio consultant? These are the most incredible people in the world. They take Ponzi and Bernie Madoff and every flim-flam scammer who's ever lived, make them look like nothing compared to people who say, I can tell you what you need, what your station needs. I can tell you. This is the days of the shaman, the witch doctor. Here, use this poultice, rub this on your arm, hold this talisman. Look, you'll be safe. Because we've been looking for the locus of control, as in the analogy of the vomiting. I hate to bring this up, but we want there to be control. And we sometimes will wear, we used to have a St. Christopher medal. Why? Couldn't hurt. Remember that one? Couldn't hurt. We love control. When I was a kid, anybody who came to the house We used to have remember a TV repairman? We had a TV repairman. I love this. Anybody who came, my mother would say, go talk to him. Because she figured, if we're paying for them, they have to amuse me. So one guy came out, we had rats. Now, when you live in Florida, as I'm from, we had fruit rats. It's no big deal, but they're in fruit trees, and sometimes when it gets cold, they want to come inside. There's something really to this. So one day I was watching the guy, and he says, I said, do you mind if I bother you? He goes, no, he loved explaining things to me. So he says, come here, I think I know where they're coming in. We had to find out where they were entering. So we went up on the roof. I used to love to go on the roof of my parents' home, or our home. I don't know why. I never got to the roof. We took the ladder up. He goes, look, they're coming in here. That's where they're coming in. So he took steel wool and he clogged up or blocked that aperture, that opening. And then he said, look, see how they're when there's this grease. You see how they're sliding across here? They like to travel. Their eyesight's rather bad. They like to travel corners, and they like to have their whiskers rub against things to give perspective. And it's fascinating. So anyway, he took out a glue trap. I thought, this is interesting. I said, what are you going to do with that? He says, well, we're going to catch them. I said, with what? With the glue? Yes. Is the glue poisonous? No. I said, well, what does it do? It catches them. I said, yeah, I know, but how do you kill them? He says, well, for the older rats, when you catch them in the glue, they will die of ulceration. They will in essence kill themselves internally because they'll realize that they have more locus. They have no more LOCUS, locus, or place of control. They realize I can't get out. I can't budge. My life is over. I will die. The younger rats, they don't know this, and they will fight and squeal, and they don't know what that is. With age comes the appreciation of finality, of frustration, of inevitability, in basically hopelessness when you get older. Years ago, people would wonder, why do whales beach themselves? They thought maybe it was a parasite. Maybe it was some kind of a disorientation. Who knows? Some people posited that when a whale feels older, when a whale feels maybe not worthless or worthwhile, maybe they feel worthless. What humans do is they normally go into radio programming. But what a whale does, the whale will say, I've had it, and it beaches itself. It cashes in its chips. The younger whales will follow it, not knowing any better. So these are, again, hypotheses. These are not really theories, but the idea of a very fascinating thing about the locus being in control. And that's why, if you've noticed, people will come up with the most fascinating theories as to soul and purpose and God and death and life. And I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just saying it's interesting. Let's go back at the phones, back at the fun. By the way, if you just tuned in, Senator Lindsey Graham has apparently passed away at the age of 71 from a sudden illness. And of course, you're going to be hearing more. You're going to hear the various paeans and encomia announced regarding Senator Graham during the day. Let's go to Paul in Connecticut. Paul, you're on Another Side of Midnight with Lionel.
Hi, good morning, Lionel. As far as hallucinations go and maybe the good in it, I met a Seminole Indian medicine man in Florida, and he told me they did a ritual when they were turning into men where they'd boil a root and they'd have a hallucinogenic experience out in the Everglades.
Have you ever done that?
I had mushrooms and I had a hallucination.
Tell us about this. Was it psilocybin? Wait a minute, was it psilocybin you used? Tell us about that.
Yes. Well, we were leaving of all places, a Grateful Dead concert, trying to find a place to camp, and we heard this engine coming at us like full blast. This person had the car going at least 100 miles an hour, Mm-hmm. We just pulled off the road in time before they hit us, before a person hit us. And then we went to look for a place to camp. And then I saw a hallucination of people laying on the ground dressed in red clothes. And I actually, it was like, this is a hallucination. But I went and put my hand right through the person laying on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I had to say, this is a hallucination. I'm very tired. I better go to sleep now. But it was something I remembered. And then the next day we were leaving.
What is the purpose of taking those substances?
Well, it was, at the time, it was relaxation, to help maybe enjoy the music.
Right.
I got enough, for the concert, plus enough for afterwards, too.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to limit it.
There was an old joke years ago that said you can always tell when the drugs are wearing off. The Grateful Dead is when the music starts sounding bad.
Well,
Paul, I thank you.
I enjoyed going to their concerts. And then
Paul, I want to thank you very much. Thank you, Paul, for this vivid and fascinating recitation of this aspect of your life. I truly mean that. Thank you so much. 800-848-9222. Tom in New Jersey. Tom, you're on another side of midnight with Lionel.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
All right. On the topic of optical illusions.
Yes, sir.
Have you ever noticed you have your television on?
Mm-hmm.
There is a face there. Like, just say, for example, a television reporter.
Yes,
you can go all the way. You could stand in front of the television. You can stand all the way to the left, all the way to the right, upside down, bottom left, any way. Even a poster. Same thing. It looks like the eyes are always looking at you, following you. I always wondered about that. That was always the weirdest thing.
What do you think that is?
An answer for that. I have no idea. If I knew, I wouldn't be calling and asking.
I think one of the reasons why that may make sense
is because it, though?
Well, sometimes I don't know. You always hear about these movies, and the movies deal
try
with.
It sometime. Try it sometime. You'll see what I'm talking about. I'm telling you.
I thank you very much for your call. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your call. Interesting. Thank you very much for your call. What he exhibited right now is he asked me a question and doesn't let me answer, which is okay. Nothing wrong with that. And he said, what do you think? I said, well, the reason why I think is, because it's an interesting thing. It sure is. Well, what do you think? Well, I think that, because I've noticed it's like they're not listening to what I'm saying, which is okay. There are no rules. Interesting how people listen or don't. Let's go to Bob in Riverhead. Bob, you're on another side of midnight with Lionel.
Hi, Lionel. I was talking to you last night before we ran out of time, if you remember. And
how could I forget?
Out-of-body experience issue.
Now, take us. I told you to call back because it was very interesting. Tell us about what that is, what that experience, what is because I've never had one. I've had dreams, but I don't know what an out-of-body experience is. Explain it, please, sir.
This is back in the old heydays, the early 70s, when Maharishi Yogi was the transcendental meditation, and they were on my campus, and I got involved in that. So, you learn how to meditate, and there's the idea of being able to project your soul, your energy field, whatever you want to call it. You take it out of your body, and you can travel the astral plane. Now, I don't condone this. I don't think you should do it, but I was young and stupid and I did it. And partly born out of, I grew up in the space generation. I thought that'd be really cool if you could fly around the solar system. You don't need your body.
Mm-hmm. So what's wrong with that?
Oh, nothing.
Okay.
But that was the motivation. And I was kind of novice at this thing. I've been doing meditation, and I probably shouldn't have been able to do this. They say some people can, some people can't. Some people can do it before they're ready. I probably was that guy. But the hard part is it takes an extreme amount of focus and heavy meditation.
Did you have that?
You're trying. I must have, because I was able to complete this. But I think.
But let me stop you for 1 second. I've never heard people speak about it so, dare I say, negatively. I've always heard it was rather kind of benign, or something which was kind of, dare I say, groovy. And what is the drawback? I don't understand this.
Yes, and that's true. A lot of people do say that, but it's a misnomer. The astral plane is not a place to play around. It's not.
What is the astral plane?
Well, it's
what does that mean?
Plane that, from lack
astral.
of a better term, of lower and higher energies, whether you want to call them spirit beings, energy beings.
Okay, I don't know what that means. But let me ask you this. Let's assume I wanted to do what you did, and you have warned me, and I said, listen, I want to do this nonetheless. Okay, how do I replicate that? How would I go about doing what you were discussing?
There's plenty of places you can look online, and you can find plenty of methodology.
You tell me.
You tell me
to
do it.
No, but tell me.
I would not. How would put anybody down the wrong? Well, it takes concentrated, focused meditation, and it takes a lot of energy.
But let me ask you something.
Energy.
I understand that. When you say energy, you mean physical energy, exhaustion that way, or?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Because, to explain it simply, you have to gather your energy being, your soul, or your soul of your soul, and you have to put it into, for lack of a better way to explain it, an energy bottle. So this is how you would accomplish separation, because you're trying to take your essence, bottle it, so that you can pull it out. And that takes a lot of energy.
I don't understand what that means.
Well, you have to create the energy bottle. You have to use the focused meditation and energy to coalesce yourself and keep it inside the bottle. If the bottle leaks at all, you will not be able to project. So it has to be a complete seal. So you're using energy to create and maintain the bottle. You're using energy to coalesce yourself and keep it in the bottle. And then you need energy to extract yourself and pull your essence, your energy essence, out of your physical body.
I appreciate that. My question is simply this: how do I do this? I mean, you're explaining. For example, if I told you, here's how you fall in love. Here's how, it's difficult to say that. How do I accomplish what it is that you're daring to accomplish? I don't know what this is. I'm not trying to be dense. I just don't understand what any of this means. So I don't think there's any risk of me doing it, because I don't know what you're talking about. And very frankly, I really don't want to do what you're saying. But if I could very quickly, what is it that I am trying to accomplish, and why would somebody want to do this?
Well, for me, I wanted to do it because I wanted to go places where my physical body couldn't go.
I think that sounds admirable, don't you?
Well, I thought it was. I would no longer want to play in that space. But back then...
Did you suffer any... What were some of the negative effects? What were some of the scary parts?
For most people, I don't think they've experienced this, because from what I understand, because I did a little reading after this, because I was so scared out of my mind, and I never played with it again. I felt like I opened up Pandora's box, and it was very hard to lock it up and throw it away. But
again, you speak in. I appreciate the fact you speak in metaphors, and you use analogies, and they're very important, I think, to grasp this. But I don't understand, because maybe I'm just dense. Final question, sir. Is it the idea that once you teleport or remove yourself, or whatever the particular word is, that you're afraid you might not be able to come back? Is that really the essence of what we're talking about?
That is what was my experience, and I could not get back. And
how do you know you came back? How do you know you came back intact? How do you know that you didn't leave some of yourself wherever you were?
because you feel the reintegration. In other words, there's an extreme emptiness. It's sort of like a telemetry between your physical body and your soul body that's outside your body. I could look
Bob,
back
I want to
into
thank
my-
you. Bob, I wish I had more time. The clock is my enemy. I want to thank you. One of the difficult things you can tell from trying to explain this is trying to explain this. How would you explain love? How would you explain how to play an accordion without using your hands? How would you explain radio programming? I don't know. But all I know is it's one of the mysteries of life. And by the way, it shows you the limitations of our speech. And some people have suggested that when civilizations get to the highest level there is, as in the case of some UAP critters, that you don't speak, you speak telepathically. Our number is 800-848-9222. Lionel with you on another side of midnight.
Esta noche, la espera termina. Operación Triunfo llega a Telemundo. Miles respondieron al llamado.
Este es mi destino.
Pero solo unos pocos llegarán a la Gala Cero.
Aquí todo el mundo está ready. Aquí hay nivel.
¿Quiénes serán los elegidos?
Me voy a ganar mi lugar en la Gala Cero.
Descúbrelo en el gran estreno de Operación Triunfo Estados Unidos. Esta noche a las 7:06 centro por Telemundo y Peacock.
When it's time to scale your business, it's time for Shopify. Get everything you need to grow the way you want. Like, all the way. Stack more sales with the best converting checkout on the planet. Track your cha-chings from every channel, right in one spot. And turn real-time reporting into big-time opportunities. Take your business to a whole new level. Switch to Shopify. Start your free trial today.
Hey, I like your new RAV4.
Thanks, yours too.
What does RAV stand for anyway?
To me, it's the Remarkably Advanced Vehicle.
Really? To me, it's the Runway Approved Vehicle for its amazing style.
What about Remarkably Adaptable Vehicle because of its versatile cargo space?
Or Really Admired Vehicle?
Oh, or Really Awesome Vehicle.
It really is the Recreational Activity Vehicle. The stylish 2026 Toyota RAV4 Limited. What's your RAV4?
Hey parents, how do you make smarter choices for your kids' college today? That's where Sally can help. With Sally, you can find scholarships, funding options, tools, and guidance all in one place. And if you need a loan, Sally has options for different families and different situations. College is only worth it if you do it right. So don't just help your kid go. Help them go smarter. Sally.com/GoParents.
The Other Side of Midnight with Lionel.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Let's go to Fred in Atlantic City. Fred, you're on another side of midnight with Lionel.
Hey, Lionel.
Hello,
Good morning,
Fred.
Lionel. You are
Good morning, sir.
You stimulate my brain. So,
excellent.
I've had a near-death experience. I was renovating my home in Atlantic City here, and I fell. I actually stepped on a ladder. The ladder kicked out, and I fell about 15 feet. I landed on the dog foot. My head landed on the dog foot of the ladder, and it penetrated my skull. I was unconscious for I don't know how long. All I know is that when I woke up, there was a puddle of fluid, which looked like blood, on the ground about 2 foot around, and I looked over, and I had this 1960s table that was shattered. Actually, it was shattered in shards of glass that went through my floor and my wall. So it was a very violent act that happened. But before I woke up, I saw my life going in two different directions. Visualizing my life swinging in both directions. There are four men talking to me at the same time. I'm answering all of them at the same time. And there's this celestial music that was going on. I can't describe it. It was just unbelievably, I call it celestial, but I had no idea what it was. And I was enjoying it. And all of a sudden, this deep voice came and says, "You're not ready." And I answered the voice as well as answering these other gentlemen, and I said, "Ready for what?" And he says, "You're not ready." And then the other men I was answering at the same time it was like crazy. I'm going, and the deep voice kept on saying to me, "You're not ready yet." And on the fourth time, I woke up and I saw this catastrophe happen in my home, which I was renovating at the time. I didn't have any pain. It was 15 feet. I felt 15. There was no pain, and my little dog was a pug. He died of cancer. He jumped over the glass, and I said, "Oh, I'm so glad you're okay." His name was Pepper, and I took him. I took him to I had my older home here in Atlantic City, and then I drove myself to the emergency room. So I'm in the emergency room. I actually mopped up the blood, what I thought was blood, and I go to the emergency room and I sign in. Before I get there, when I was parking my car, my depth of perception was way off. I mean, I parked the car and I looked in front of me, and it was like 4 feet still in front of me. So I pulled up what I thought was close, and it was still like 2 foot away. But I said, I need to go inside there. So I go inside
ultimately,
there,
what
and I'm
happened?
waiting.
We're running out of time. Tell me ultimately what. I mean, obviously you're here, and thank God. But what was your?
Yeah,
you know what?
yeah,
Do me
so
a
I
favor.
go to-
Do me a favor. Fred, just stand by for a second. I want you to continue this. I don't want to rush you through this. This is fascinating. Our number is 800-848-9222. I have coming up a hypothesis that people have suggested regarding what near death is and what that means. And I would love to share it with you. And the final hour, the final hour on Another Side of Midnight with Lionel, 800-848-9222. We would be so honored if you would make our acquaintance and join us. Unless, of course, you have any experience in radio programming. Stay tuned.
The Other Side of Midnight with Lionel.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Alrighty, Lionel with you. This is Another Side of Midnight, the final hour of this thing of ours. Our number is 800-848-9222. 800-848-9222. Whenever people talk about near death, near something that you have experienced, the story is always the same. Some event happened. You were either declared dead, near dead. Sometimes you were in a hospital, maybe in a trauma center, emergency room. You either floated above your body. You could see a light that you were attracted to. Something along those lines. You were pulled, culled. You were drawn into this light, this warm tunnel, and you could hover over your body. You could see your loved ones. And in some cases, people would say they would see a daughter or see somebody that they cared for and cared about. And they realize now is not the time. I don't want to leave now. I don't want to leave my body now. I've got things to do. I've got a mission. Okay, so I'm going to stay. Or there's variations of this. But the point is, they remember this. And they say this must be, and here is, remember, this is what makes us human. We don't say, that was interesting. We go a step further because that is an incomplete story. We will say, no. This is about our soul, our spirit, our essence, our being, our reality, and then we will fill in the blank. It is us, it is God, it is the hereafter. Maybe sometimes people will see family members. There have been theories, hypotheses, I should say, posited, proposed to explain these NDEs, these near-death experiences, including the first being hypoxia or anoxia. This is reduced oxygen to the brain that may produce tunnel vision, lights, altered consciousness by virtue of the fact that we are losing, or you were losing, oxygen. Number 2, this is fascinating, hypercapnia. Hypercapnia, Hypercapnia, hypercapnia means elevated CO2 levels that may contribute to vivid visions and unusual sensations. Next, there's REM or REM intrusion. This is dreamlike REM mechanisms, rapid eye movement, that may enter waking consciousness during extreme stress. Also, not daydreams, but there's a word for it. When you have what am I saying? There's a dream, there's a consciousness. There's a word for it that escapes me now. I think I'm going through this. Then there's temporal lobe activity. This is where abnormal brain activity may produce kind of mystical experiences, presences, altered perceptions, or neurochemical surges, endorphins, and other neurotransmitters may create euphoria, vivid imagery, and detachment. Perhaps predictive brain theory. The brain constructs a coherent experience as sensory input collapses. Psychological defense. Maybe the mind may create comforting experiences when confronting imminent death. Terminal brain activity. Brief bursts of organized electrical activity near death could potentially contribute to conscious experience. That is so interesting. Quantum consciousness theories. Speculative, this is the Max Planck, this is the microtubules. Speculative proposals involving quantum processes, sometimes associated with, as I've said, neuronal microtubules. Look this up. This is a Penrose and others have this theory. And survival of consciousness theory. This is consciousness may exist independently of the brain with NDEs or near-death experiences, presenting maybe a real kind of a genuine glimpse of existence, maybe beyond bodily death. And the central mystery is this: no single hypothesis or theory explains every reported feature or aspect of NDEs, and particularly the combination of vivid consciousness and life reviews, my life passed in front of me. You hear this all the time. Out-of-body perceptions, encounters with deceased people, and the profound long-term psychological changes that many people experience. People say they are never, ever the same. There's a fascinating subject called translobe or transcranial, I'm trying to think of the name, electromagnetic stimulation, where a device is put on the head, on your head, with magnets that can, by virtue of directive stimulus, identify and stimulate portions of the brain to mimic and encourage feelings of spirituality, love. The experiments were done in the UK initially, and I believe it was done to study OCD behaviors. And this is one of the most fascinating of them all. This is one of those moments where I thought, whoa, because I remember I've had these moments where I've thought, it's almost like an inspiration. What happens is, this is transcranial magnetic stimulation. This is TMS. And what happens is, there's a magnetic coil that's placed against the scalp. And it looks almost like an old bathing cap. Remember that your mother may have worn, like a bathing cap. It's a magnetic coil, and it's placed against the scalp, and it delivers focused magnetic pulses that induce electrical activity in targeted specific brain regions. And it's called repetitive TMS or RTMS. This is repetitive transcranial magnetic stimulation. Has been studied and used for depression and investigated for OCD. What happens is there was this, they called it the God helmet. And the God helmet experiments associated with Michael Persinger, which used weak magnetic fields around the temporal lobes in, I guess, what were attempts to maybe induce a sensed presence or mystical or spiritual experiences. And what happens is, it's called, look it up, TMS, transcranial magnetic stimulation, the God helmet, look this up. And there have been experiments suggesting that stimulating or disrupting particular brain networks can alter self-transcendence, religious experience, and the sense of a boundary between oneself and the world. But the stronger claims, as some people suggest, that you can switch on spirituality or love, this remains controversial. And the reason for that is simply this. When they were doing these experiments, people would come in and they would suggest a need for, I guess, sending a note to our good friend, Mr. Lee. I need a code. I need, as we say, this is radio talk, by the way. We speak in code by saying we need a code. In any event, one of the things which is so fascinating to me in all this is that if I can find out the part of your brain that can conduct and control spiritual awareness, sentience, a feeling of connectivity, being a part of something, whether it's the parietal lobe, temporal lobes, who knows? Can I artificially create, jumpstart, or maybe extinguish a faith you had? For example, let's say you go to a center and you say, listen, my faith in God has been, well, it's not what it used to be. Or my love for a spouse, or my patriotism, or whatever I can identify as being sourced in a particular part of the brain. I want you to jumpstart it. So you walk in, they put a God helmet on you, they put this kind of like a bathing cap, and lo and behold, they zap you a little bit of electricity, and all of a sudden, it peaks, it restarts, it accelerates, it energizes that part of your brain where you normally went to and accessed when you wanted to feel and you wanted to enjoy spirituality. Meaning, I can artificially create your sense of being spiritual. What if I can do that with love? What if I can do that with a variety of things? I'm artificially doing it. And by the way, the real issue might be, maybe, and this is something which is critical, maybe over a period of time, people would say, that's unethical. On a similar note, somewhat the same, but different. If you came to me and you said, listen, I had terrible trauma years ago. I went through something which I cannot get around. I am unable to live normally. I can't sleep. I can't function. You've got to help me. And I said to you, I know how to do that. I know how to do that. I know how we can fix this. I'm going to ablate, to remove, to surgically or electronically remove from your brain that ability to remember this thing. I'm going to make it go away. This event, this trauma, will have never occurred. Like gone. You were the victim of a violent rape or a murder or something in war, PTSD. I will make this go away. But I'm going to make the memory go away. But the problem is it's the memory that's associated with this particular trauma. Now, you might not remember a lot of what happened, but that's the idea. And you, being the tortured victim of this, will say, I don't care, make it go away. Then in the case of, let's say, a Vietnam veteran who still has flashbacks, all of a sudden, there's no more flashbacks. But there's no more memory of Vietnam either. You can't target it. Let's just assume. Like I say, listen, I'm going to take away the PTSD, but you're not going to remember Vietnam. You're not going to, that part of you. You know how people say, especially people who talk about the Holocaust, they always say, never forget. Never forget. Because forgetting is the worst thing that, it's almost like the Santayana notion of those who do not recall history are forced to repeat it. But if I could say to you, now listen, what do you want? Do you want me to get rid of this? Yes, but you're not going to remember anything about it. Fine. Pretty soon, if I remove your memory and your trauma, then I remove you. And when you remove the collective history of a people or a person, even negative, you destroy and you redirect history. And that's dangerous. Our number is 800-848-9222. 800-848-9222. That is the number. And this is Another Side of Midnight.
The Other Side of Midnight with Lionel.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
With our number 800-848-9222. 800-848-9222. We had a gentleman by the name of Fred from Atlantic City who was telling us about a fall he had, a near-death experience. And I wanted to at least let him finish. There's nothing worse than saying, speed it up. You know, you've got this story that's life-changing and somebody's yelling for you to speed it up. But if you could, what has your near-death experience done for you? Has it affected your spirituality, your faith in God, your resilience? What has it done for you, good sir?
Well, it has changed my outlook on life.
How?
I think I'm a kinder human being because of it. I have a little club that I own, and I use it for AA because I find that being a spiritual or enlightening experience, which I go to those meetings. Not that I'm an alcoholic, but I go to those meetings because their experiences help my mind.
Wait a minute. Wait. You're a You're a non-alcoholic going to AA?
Yes.
Do they know this?
Yes.
So you can never share in terms of your own particular rock bottom moments. That's so interesting. I've never heard of somebody who's not. Go ahead.
I do share with them now. It's been years. They've been there for 15 years, and they're my friends now. They're all my friends and neighbors.
But you can never. But you don't have any stories of blackouts or DWIs and broken marriages, and they must look at you and they'll say, well, I mean, this is almost like the scene from Fight Club, where the opening scene where they're going to. I just thought that's fascinating. I had a friend of mine who told me one time he used to go. He found out there were AA meetings of people who had been sober for like 50 years. And he said, you've got to hear that. I said, wait a minute, aren't you violating some kind of code? He goes, no. And I never thought about that before. They're an interesting group. And by the way, I've heard on YouTube, there are some of the best sharings, and these are some of the best speakers and stand-up comics. You should hear how great these stories are. Anyway, so your takeaway from this is you're a better person, kinder person.
Mm-hmm. I'm not perfect, and I realize that every day when I do go to a meeting, and I realize that even me not being an alcoholic, I am not perfect, and that imperfection just drives me to be a better person. And listening to their stories, and especially the young ones. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Fred, I want to thank you so much. Thank you. Please call me again. I appreciate this immensely. I find that so fascinating. Can you share? Yes. What about you? Well, I'm not an alcoholic. I don't have any drinking stories, but I did fall off a roof. Huh? Well, I fell off a roof. Excuse me, this is AA. Yeah, I know. Well, we talk about alcoholic, but yeah, I know. I'm not an alcoholic, but I get a lot out of this. But you can't relate to us. Well, maybe not. I find that I don't know why that interests me more. The power of AA will go down in history as a non-governmental, one of the 1,000 points of light. How it does more and has saved more lives, more people, more families, more than anything you can imagine. And how it is done, again, without government involvement, thank God, without government involvement, intervention. It goes to show you the power of humanity. I really mean this. And anybody who realizes I've got to do something, that first step, it's embarrassing, it's scary to sit there and say, oh my God, because nobody wants to say, I've got this, this problem or whatever. I think it's an incredible testament. And there are some people who it has literally, and I use the word correctly, saved lives. Let's go to Donald in White Plains. You're on another side of midnight with Lionel.
Oh, I love being on the other side, believe me. Listen,
it's another side, not the other side, another side.
All right.
Whatever that means.
I have a question. Who has a greater character deficit, a radio program director or a radio sales manager? Let's go into that for a moment.
Perhaps maybe for another show.
You bring up a name of a dead person that you know and I know.
I loved him,
and he was the ultimate pro in both. You know that.
I loved him so much. He was but not only that, what a character! He was WVOX, and he
was a bartender at one time too. You know.
Oh, that makes sense. You know what? He is just makes so much sense. Anyway, Donald, tell me about yourself.
Well, I was raised in Westchester County, and I've been through the whole radio thing. I'm 81 years old now. I wrote news for NBC's Monitor years ago.
Really?
I worked at WINS when they made the transition from rock to news. 1965, March 20th, I think it was.
Wow.
And I've been around. I've owned newspapers. But here's the thing. What people don't understand, and what professionals, I guess you'd call them in the radio business, don't want people to understand is that I know there's media buyers and there's creative agencies and everything else, but you get a good, smart salesman to go in and talk about demographics and time spent listening and audience parallels and this and that. Well, Shaughnessy used to call people up and say, hey, look, at some point, a hip banker in New Rochelle will buy this station and own the banking business in this city. And he'd tell the same thing to 5 other people, and 2 of 5 will buy. So I was trained by animals. I really was.
I appreciate this immensely. I want you to call me back again. And believe me, we can. That. Thank you so much. Not that the radio industry is not. It just might be too frightening for people at this early. I rather near death is one thing. A transcendental cataclysmic moments of terror, that's one thing. But going into the interstitial moments of radio, last point of the WKRP is still the best TV portrayal of radio, the way radio used to be. Absolutely 100%. 100%. I want to go back to, again, why I love this. I have these experiences these thought experiments where I speak to God or nature or whatever makes you happy. And I want to ask these questions. And the first question is, how can something as omnipotent and powerful and glorious and majestic and grand and immane as you come up with something as just as backward and dangerous and slow as the human being? What is the matter? Were you asleep at the switch? How did you do this? We are the only animal that kills ourselves, sometimes for pleasure. For pleasure. We talk about geopolitical advancement like it's a chessboard. We don't even care. People die, so what? We need their oil, we need their roots, we need their rare earth minerals, we need their water, we need their position. We will kill you. We will come into your country. Vietnam. We will come in for reasons I still can't understand. Something about domino theories and communism. And we will destroy you. We will destroy you. And we are so demented in our pathology that we will consider ourselves to be, no, we are heroes. We are able to, by virtue of situational morality, we are able to come up with things that fascinate me. For example, Paul Tibbets, the fellow who the Enola Gay dropped, flew the plane. That it wasn't his decision, but he was instrumental in the delivery of an atomic bomb. And by the way, I think, if I recall correctly, the second one was Sweeney was his name. I interviewed him one time. He was from Nagasaki. And he incinerated. And by the way, Jimmy Doolittle probably killed more people and burned more people and destroyed more through fire because Tokyo was all wooden and, incinerated people. Young children, old people, women, wives, dogs, cats, just melted them because they were the enemy. And we were on a better cause. We were a part of a cause and effort which was righteous. We didn't mean to. They attacked us. And by God, we're going to end it. This is what Sherman, his idea was. William Tecumseh Sherman said, if war is so horrible and so inexplicably just beyond even the ability to explicate, then nobody would ever do it. Well, wrong he was. And we're able to do this in our own mind. We're able to sit there and say, this, we're correct, you're not. You're a terrorist. You aren't, we are. You. And that takes a very special person to do this. Fascinates me. Fascinates me. So going back to my question to God, is like, why did you do this? Why didn't you create something in this? You do know that dogs, for the most part, make it easy, dogs do not kill other dogs. They do on occasion, but animals usually don't kill each other. They have signals. You know, when you come in your dog will roll over, expose its jugular, or as Victor Davis Hanson called it, jugular, which I don't understand that at all. And it will show submission. I submit to you. You're my master. Leave me alone. Don't hurt me. Here's my neck. Now let's be done with it. Okay. Not humans. Oh, no. We will hate you for reasons, your hair, your lack of hair, your skin color, your race, where you're from, demographics, sexuality, gender, politics. Lindsey Graham died last night for sudden and unknown reasons, at least as we speak. And people today, invariably, whether you like them or not, it doesn't really matter, will not be able to absent themselves from this scrum. And you will hear paeans and panegyrics and encomia representing how great he was and what a great public service. And by the same token, you'll hear online the most vile, good, he's dead. And isn't that something? Isn't that something? It is the most incredible. We are fascinating. Forget everything else. Right now, there are people who are exhibiting themselves in a behavior that, to me, for the rest of my life, astounds me. The World Cup. This is, for all practical purposes, a waste of time. It is a ceremonial nothing. It is a pattern of choreographed movement, artificial scoring, kind of mimics warfare, teams, tribalism, bread and circuses, juveniles at the best, panem et circenses, after the great Roman poet Juvenal, not Juvenile. I don't understand it. I marvel. Who cares? This is artificial. I sometimes will make different sounds. I make this sound with my hands. You might have heard it before. And you can have fun with it in your life. Now I can do this. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but I think sometimes it can be funny. I don't, make music out of it. But if all of a sudden people said, this is the most fantastic thing in the world, I'd say, you're out of your mind. It's the same way I feel about soccer. But I recognize it. And there's nothing I can do to change it. And that's just the way we are. That's just the way we are. I look at human beings as the most demented, strange, weird. We celebrate, I'm serious. We celebrate mental illness. We give it a name. We give it political parties. It shocks me. Shocks me. And this is the most important thing in the world. And I find it fascinating. And I absolutely love this part. And there's so many things that I look at and why we do things, why we act this way. But more importantly than that is I love the way that we love, or on our own, we will find out ways to explain certain things. And there's nothing worse than how we create reality. Let me go back to social media. Social media is so big. This is the most important event, contribution. Let me give you an example. I'm a former prosecutor, trial lawyer, practicing lawyer. And I wasn't sure about cameras in the courtroom. Wasn't sure. I thought, I don't think it's a good idea. I think intellectually I said, it's a good idea because I think under the Sixth Amendment, we have a speedy and public trial, a need for a speedy and public trial. And they're right. So the speedy trial I got, but what does a public trial mean? Well, the idea is that we didn't want to have a star chamber. We didn't want to have something that is, some kind of a lunchroom justice like Ceausescu. So I thought, okay, cameras were good. But then I thought, cameras, especially after OJ, cameras would be, people would play up and, okay. Jump to this current trial of Tyler Robinson. This is the individual who's charged with killing Charlie Kirk. Case going on, preliminary hearing in Utah. The camera in the courtroom mean nothing. Social media changed everything. This past week, we had a 5-day preliminary hearing. I was horrified by what I saw. Horrified. I've never seen anything like it. And it brought me back to one of the great moments of, one of those epiphany moments I had. And this is, of course, the study of Gustave Le Bon and crowd psychology. We are like schools of fish. We are murmurations. Have you ever seen starlings that move in perfect patterns of flight? They're beautiful. They never lose patterns. It's like watching a Rorschach test or it just move in concert. That's called a murmuration, supposedly from the sound of the beating of the wings. And anyway, we act in concert. We act in groups. Sports, the way we do it. Yankees. We're watching the WNBA completely disintegrate, being held captive by a bunch of assaultive thugs. This is a game. But this past week, I never saw this coming. The case became, this is the weirdest thing, the case, a preliminary hearing, which is only designed to determine whether the state of Utah could prove probable cause, which means he probably did it, but to bind over this Tyler Robinson to be held for trial. And it's the most simple. It probably could take a day, but this dragged on because this judge is horrible and terrible. There's no idea what he's doing. He's a real Judge Ito wannabe. But this case, all of a sudden, online, turned into a referendum on Candace Owens. Look at today's Drudge. It's this fascinating change that is happening in American politics. Tucker Carlson is advocating a third party. I want a second party because we have a uniparty right now. Democrats and Republicans are the same. Two sides of the same coin. It's just an illusion. Okay. What does this have to do? This is political talk. I thought this was about, spooky stuff. Oh, no. It is. This is sheer, absolute tribalism like you can't believe. Have you ever wondered how the lynch mob worked? Lynch, by the way, does not mean necessarily hanging by the throat. It means kind of an extrajudicial, improper event or, some type of an event, whether it's a mock court or whatever. But all of a sudden, the scrum starts, and you start to hate somebody. And in this world, and you could see it if you want to see Fox News or anybody else, they will talk about this case as being nothing involving Tyler Robinson, the defendant, but Candace Owens. Okay. Over the week, there is a perception. Now listen to this. Somebody somewhere said on Friday, was it Friday? Yeah, Friday. They said, a few folks, I saw a video piece of Tyler Robinson clearly shooting from atop this building, clearly shooting and killing Charlie Kirk. This is the smoking gun. This is it. I saw it. I can't believe it. This guy named Joe Posobiec or Probiotic or something, but he is a promoter. Anyway, just work with me through this. I saw this. They presented either to the family or a few people, and I was lucky to be one of them, this video which conclusively shows this case, clearly showing that this defendant killed that victim. Case closed. That's it. Okay. You're probably wondering, well, why doesn't the public see it? Very good. I don't know. Well, if it was so true, what do we... wait a minute. Could it be that this didn't happen? Yes. Could it be that somebody's lying? Well, I don't know if they're lying, but I know that it's possible that didn't happen. Didn't happen. It didn't happen. Wait a minute. Why are people saying it did happen? I don't know. Do people believe it happened? Yes. They believe this. They believe this, that at some point. And then AP, a local news, you name the outlet. They say, no, there was no video of any such at all showing this. It might have shown something that appeared to be maybe somebody on a roof, but it doesn't matter. And there are people today who swear that occurred. When we had War of the Worlds, when we had the famous Mercury Theater with Orson Welles, during the course of that, he said, this is not real. This isn't real. This is a drama. Please don't think this is real. People didn't want to hear it. They swore. They go, no, you don't understand. It happened. Not only did they think they heard it, they think it happened. In this, probably, again, what do you call this? Is it hallucination? Is it a conversion reaction? Is it hysteria? I don't know. People swear. It's like the Streisand effect, the Gandhi effect. There's all these effects. When I was on a radio station years ago, right at the time of 9/11. And I didn't know anything about the flight numbers or anything about the towers, or we didn't know about Building 7. It was just fresh. It just happened. And I, like most New Yorkers, was just shocked by what I saw. Somebody called up and said, what do you think about Flight 93 in Shanksville? And I said, I'm sorry, I don't know. And, internet was kind of primitive. This was 2001, obviously, 25 years ago, this coming September. So I said, just a minute. So I looked on the various computers, the Google images or whatever it was. And I'm looking Flight 93, and I'm looking for a plane crash. I'm looking, because I heard about it, but I'm looking for the pictures. Sometimes you'll find the picture first, then you hit all, then you go to the story. So I'm looking. I don't see any crash. And I said, well, here's is interesting. I see this one thing. I see it looks like a little divot in the ground, some kind of a indentation, some steam, a couple of fire trucks. I don't know. That was Flight 93. That was Flight 93. And I'm looking and I said, where's the plane? And somebody called up, I'll never forget this, and said, what are you getting at? I said, what do you mean? What do you mean, where's the plane? I said, yeah, where's the plane? I'm looking at it. And he, this caller, loathed the fact that I was daring to contest, daring to challenge the official narrative. Online, on X, on social media, there is the belief that people had this week that there is a video, there's absolute proof positive. And if you say, wait a minute, there's no video of this. You're sick. You're a conspiracy theorist. You're a Candace Owens. What I'm saying is, how much of what we believe, what we swear is happening in the real world, has something to do with reality? What if it is this prestidigitation? What if it's this 3-card Monte? What if it's somebody who knows how to pull our strings, yank our chain, and create an illusion? How do you know the news is even real? Remember what Napoleon said, that history is a myth that people agree to believe. Tolstoy said that history would be a wonderful thing if only it were true. How much of what you think you know is just accepted mythology, popular belief system? How much, to be a member of the particular political club, must you commit to memory a certain ideology? Think about that one. This is Lionel with you on Another Side of Midnight.
The Other Side of Midnight with Lionel.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
There was a PSA, a public service announcement. I don't know if you can hear this where you are, but I don't hear what the local feed is. I can hear what the network. Anyway, and it was for an organization that takes dogs that would be euthanized and uses them, trains them to deal with veterans who suffer from PTSD. And what is so interesting, you want to talk about really something that makes you think, wow, look how a dog is superior to a human. How a dog is able to pick up things we don't even know. How a dog is one of the few animals that looks at you, has an eye. Remember, a cat's eye, completely different. Looks at you. Well, it's a feral animal. It's different completely, obviously. But a dog has sclera, has that white portion of the eye, the white, not the conjunctiva, but anyway. And you can see the dog look at you. And the dog can do things others can't. A chimp is pretty smart. Chimps and bonobos and others, very, very smart. But if you point to something, a chimp will look at your finger. But if you point with your finger, a dog will know what you mean. You can look at something with your eyes, and the dog watches your eyes. Sometimes dogs can tell PTSD attacks and panic attacks and diabetic attacks, and it's just incredible. Epileptic seizures. It can even detect cancer just by virtue of their smell, but also by virtue of a sentience that humans don't have. That is the most fascinating of them all. And here is this dog that we look at as it's just a pet. And whenever somebody's going through this emotional in extremis, like a veteran or somebody who's suffering PTSD, a dog can look and see exactly what it is you need and what you want and knows when you are not feeling well. A dog, not humans, a dog. It's blows my mind. Absolutely how they can tell. Forget their olfactory skills, which are something else. And I want to know, what is it that you are giving off? What signal? And at what frequency is this signal? What frequency? What wavelength? How is this even done? When you look around, it's just plain old things. Anything that we do, from how we worship, how we enjoy sports, our politics, our entertainment, the way we meet, the way we raise our kids. We are the most fascinating subject on the earth. We can take anything that we do, anything, and we can completely, it's just so interesting. We have in our world something called rudeness. And it's a sense of somebody who steps over the boundary, somebody who does something where you have said something or acted in a way that we consider to be contumacious, something that is contrary. Animals don't do this. They have their own decorum. But we have this ability, and you ask yourself, why? How do we pick up on that? You name the subject, and I'm telling you it's fascinating. We are the most interesting animal, species, thing, bar none. And as the older I get, the more I'm fascinated by it. And think about what I'm doing right now. We are having this thing where I'm speaking to you, just talking to you. And I hope it's people can say, well, you find it entertaining. Well, yeah, we hope so, of course. But even if you didn't, there's something about listening to somebody speak to you. And let me also tell you something. If our younger folks, I hate to say this, continue on what I believe is a very scary trajectory as far as being non-communicative, media like this will suffer dramatically because, as I said, we're getting non-communicative. Thank you so much for being with me, my friends. Please follow me at Lionel Nation on YouTube and on X at Lionel Media. Oh, wait till you see what I have to say. Let me also thank Mr. Bill Lee, the General, and of course our good friend Isaac, who is brand new and probably will never work again after this evening. But thank you. Both of you were superb. Thank you, my friends. We'll see you next week. And until then, remember these final words. The monkey's dead. The show's over. Sue you. Da-da.
The Other Side of Midnight with Lionel.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.